Welcome to the Basketball Show Podcast Edition. I'm your host, Paul Sir. Thanks so much for joining us today. We have a great show. We go in-depth on the upcoming Hoop City 3x3 event in downtown Edmonton, November 5th to the 7th. And then Brian, Ryan, and myself really dive deep into the Canadian Olympic team, the NBA draft, and much, much more. Enjoy your podcast today on the Basketball Show. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Basketball Show. I'm your host, Paul Sir. Glad to be joined this morning by this all-star team. Ryan, good morning.
Good morning, Paul.
And, of course, Brian. Brian, welcome back. Good to have you here.
Good morning, Paul.
Let's start out with the poll question.
It's going to be related to Bronny James. If you're not familiar of his dad's LeBron James, and Bronny just recently drafted by the Lakers with the 55th overall pick in the NBA draft. The question is based on what his ceiling is as an NBA player. The first result is a star, a starter, a bench player, or a career G Leaguer. Go over on Twitter, basketball_show, or you can text us the questions too at 833-401-1440.
Yes, that's 833-401-1440. It's amazing that a second-round draft pick that most people know or think that if his name wasn't the same as his dad's, he wouldn't be drafted. But that remains to be seen because a lot of people also speak up and say that Bronny has a lot of talent. I want to remind everybody you can always listen online to our show live on sports1440.ca. And you can also listen to our podcast, which we posted immediately now going forward right after our show on the Stingray Podcast Network or however you consume or listen to your podcast. So if you can't make our show, do check it out on the podcast network, however you listen to podcasts. We have a great show today. It's going to be a little bit different in that we're going to be spending a lot of time in studio with our team talking about all of the things going on in the world of basketball right now. We're going to start out in our second segment with our Stinger Report, talking with head coach Jordan Baker and longtime player and Nate Ook's head coach Adika Peter McNeely. And we'll talk about the first half, which is already over in the CEBL. And we're going to be talking all things Stinger as they square off tonight against the league-leading Vancouver Bandits. Then we're really going to do a deep dive into the NBA draft. Even though it was not a terribly exciting draft in terms of marquee names, there were no players that people point to and say, this is who is going to be a franchise player. There was none of that, but there are still a lot of talented players with a heavy international flavor being added in, probably heavier than normal. Not a great draft for Canada. Zach Edey surprised everybody going 9th in the draft, but we're going to dive into that. We're also going to talk a great deal about Hoop City 3x3, which kicks off next Friday down at the Fan Park. Games will start at 4 p.m. It'll be the women's series kicking off. Team Canada, top team in the world, Michelle and Catherine Plouffe, will be leading Team Canada. They'll play twice on Friday, and we have a lot of other aspects to this event that I think you're going to want to know about, and you're going to want to get downtown and check this event out on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We're also going to talk about the Canadian Olympic teams and what their chances are for medaling. There's a lot of high expectations, high hopes for all three teams that qualified for the Olympics. We'll dive into that, and then we'll also touch on the WNBA. But let's start out, guys, with some initial chatter, and let's go with the topic of our poll discussion. Let's just get that out of the way. Bronny James. Bronny James averaged 4.8 points a game, did not start for USC this year. The young man at 18 years old suffered a cardiac arrest just before the season, has fought his way back, is recognized as a talented player. I believe in his graduating class from high school, he was the 18th ranked player in the country in terms of all the rankings they do for player potential. But the bottom line is he was drafted by the LA Lakers, who also hired LeBron James' podcast co-host, J.J. Redick. And it's not like J.J. Redick doesn't have a pedigree in basketball. He was a phenomenal player at Duke, led the nation in scoring along with Adam Morrison back in the day, and then a very, very solid NBA career. Somewhat controversial podcast personality, but now the head coach. So why don't we start with that before we jump over to Bronny? I'm going to go to you, Brian, on this. What do you think of the hire of J.J. Redick by the Los Angeles Lakers?
Well, there's certainly some suspicions to it, as you mentioned, Paul. He's obviously close to LeBron, and I think anything LeBron wants, the Lakers will do. That doesn't mean he's not going to be a good coach. We've seen a lot of players that have gone, especially in the NBA. This has been, I think, maybe for the last 10 or 15 years, and I'm kind of racking my brain to think how successful they have or haven't been, but where players have gone, from basically having virtually no coaching experience to going right to being a head coach of an NBA team. And I think of like Jason Kidd. He had a rocky start, I think, as a coach, and now he's obviously doing fairly well. Got the Mavericks to the finals this year. I think of Derek Fisher. Steve Kerr wasn't directly right into coaching. I think he was in front office for a little bit with the Suns. But so would we be, if this was a hire made by any other team, let's say this. Let's say this hire happens a year ago, before the J.J. Redick has this association with LeBron, before he's got the podcast, when he's just known as J.J. Redick, a fairly cerebral player, former Duke player, and someone we've gotten to know for his broadcasting. If any other team made this hire before any of this other stuff happened without all this other tertiary stuff, would we still be rolling our eyes at this hire?
Not as much. This hire reminds me a great deal. You were going through the names of players, but this reminds me of Steve Nash. It's that kind of hire.
I put that one out of my mind. I think I had PTSD from that one. I'd completely forgotten. But that even he wasn't directly. He'd been doing some coaching with. I wouldn't say coaching, but he'd been consulting with the Golden State Warriors.
Right.
Yeah.
But no head coaching experience, no direct team coaching experience. So it reminds me of that. And what I think it's the Steve Kerr effect. If I really boil it down, I'll just refer to this in the NBA. It's no accident that 5 French players were drafted in the first round this year after the number 1 pick last year, Wembanyama, was so successful. And we have seen that traditionally year after year. Kobe Bryant comes out of high school, does really well, and Kevin Garnett the same. Then all these high school kids are drafted, and we can't remember virtually any more of them. But that is what tends to happen in the NBA, is people then herd over to that success and try to duplicate it.
Yeah, no, I think we can kind of look at this with both things being true. Could this be a LeBron hire? Yes. Could it also be a good hire? Yes. Could also go completely sideways and the whole thing could blow up. If J.J. Redick isn't cut out to be an NBA coach, and the fact that he's also basically, LeBron's avatar in there, this could go really sideways.
It could go really sideways, and I wouldn't be shocked if it goes really sideways. The thing I'm interested in, Ryan, is I find Redick's podcasts are oftentimes excellent, compelling listens, oftentimes. But you always get those J.J. Redick hot takes, which really cause me to take a step back. Like if you look at a Steve Kerr or a Steve Nash, they're not in the media. And again, they haven't hosted their own podcasts and haven't run it like a business like Redick has. But he says things that oftentimes I go, that's a weird thing to say. Like his Bob Cousy comment about playing against plumbers and firemen, and the derogatory comment and the response from greats like Jerry West. Like, I know that's just all part of the deal, and that doesn't necessarily translate, but what that does show to me is a characteristic of an individual who I think that's something that you have to really be able to check at the door, and I'm curious to see whether he's able to do that.
My rebuttal to that would be, in the business of podcasting, you have to say stuff like that to get clicks, unfortunately, nowadays, especially in the media.
Good point.
So
yeah, I agree.
I think that when he becomes the head coach officially like he is now, I think he's going to take a more modest approach. He's not going to call out Bob Cousy and players from back in the day anymore. I feel that now he's going to be just more professional. And the thing with a different point on that, is people are always trying to find the next big thing, especially with young coaches. This happens in the NFL a lot, and now in the NBA with the new Pat. They're trying to find the new Pat Riley. Everybody is, right? So you got the Steve Kerr, and that panned out well. Pat Riley obviously panned out well. And Steve Nash did not pan out, and now J.J. Redick's turn. So the ex-player coach thing is becoming a thing in the NBA, and we'll just have to see if it turns out for them. But, yeah,
You're listening to the Basketball Show on Sports 1440. Paul Sir along with Brian and Ryan. Okay, guys, I agree with what you just said. And to be honest, so much of the success in terms of X's and O's on the court has nothing to do or very little to do with the head coach. It's going to be your staff that you hire around you. And not only the staff technically, but like you have in Boston, a staff that relates really well to the players and can really help this team reach its potential. Here's the thing in LA that's so unique. A couple of things, and I'll run this question by you, Brian. The Lakers are one of the few NBA teams that, as a business, are just exclusively for the Buss family. It's the Lakers. They don't have Microsoft. They don't have other corporations, a multi-billion-dollar corporation, that this is part of a corporate structure. This is their deal. That's number one. Number two, franchises tend to make similar decisions whether they work out or not as time goes on. And what I'm referring to specifically is, I'll use Portland as an extreme example. They draft way back in the day Sam Bowie and don't take Michael Jordan. Sam Bowie, a big man, 7-footer, who played at Kentucky for people who don't know, leg problems, has a very, very short career. But then a few years later, they draft Greg Oden, another big guy with known leg problems, and don't take Kevin Durant. And because they go right back to what they tried once and think, well, this time it's going to work. Are the Lakers making the same mistake right now with building their franchise around an aging personality? And I'm thinking specifically of Kobe, when his salary handcuffed that franchise because they don't have the money to go way over the luxury cap to purchase other players to keep their aging superstar happy. Are they doing the same thing with LeBron by getting his guy JJ in as the head coach and his son Bronny on the team?
When you put it like that, Paul, I think they might be. I mean, you're right. The comparisons from this situation and the situation with Kobe are very similar. And I mean, the Lakers right now have been more, or the Lakers in the last couple of years with LeBron have been more competitive than the Lakers were in Kobe's final years, and that's just because they have. I mean, Kobe never had an AD to play with.
LeBron's
they got a
also
couple
better
of
than
pieces.
Kobe was.
What's that?
LeBron's also better than Kobe was at the last couple of years.
Yeah, in his later stages
way
of his
better,
career. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. But your point is, your point is very well made, Paul. Because at some point, and we've talked about this in the last few weeks, and I sit here and I just marvel at what LeBron is doing at his age.
Unbelievable.
It's absolutely astonishing. But that drop off is going to come one of these years, one of these months, one of these weeks, right? It could be right from jump this season. It might not be for 2 years yet. I don't know. But when it happens, it's going to be like off the side of a cliff, I think. When that happens and you've got everything built around this one guy, then what?
Well, that's the point. Like, are they being successful in assembling a team around him in the offseason that will make up for his defensive liabilities? That's the most obvious That's the most obvious aspect of his aging. Is he's just no longer what you would say a high quality defender.
I mean, they're bringing in pieces to put around him that I would argue might be detrimental to the franchise by drafting second rounders who shouldn't even. Well, I mean, that's a whole other conversation we'll have. But
right.
But just to keep him, you're having to bring in other pieces that maybe shouldn't even be part of your team. So it's like you're doubling and tripling down on this.
Well, that's my point about Kobe. The decision with Kobe, they doubled down on Kobe. Because they have Kobe's legacy, and the tragic ending to Kobe's life cements that legacy, unfortunately. Ryan, you had a point.
But what are you supposed to do? Just not build around LeBron? You have to try. Like, if you have LeBron, you have to bite the bullet sometimes on players that you're building around him. But you have to try, right? You're going to bring in players that sometimes don't work, but you're not just going to sit there and just say, "We'll see what happens. We'll play it safe."
I agree with that, but when you draft the player's son, what does that do in the locker room?
It's just a side effect.
And what does that do with your podcast buddy now being the head coach? Now, you say that. We don't know what it's like in the locker room. We don't know what it's like to play with LeBron. The guy still plays at such a high level, and I think, honestly, Brian, I don't know if I agree with you about the Father Time will win. But guys like LeBron and Brady have used all of the science now and are disciplined enough, highly disciplined individuals, that through their multitude of efforts of using strength training, nutrition, everything that is available to them now as resources to stave off the aging process and remain effective as athletes well beyond the norm. So I don't know. I'm really curious to see. They've made their commitment. They've played their hand. Now, Bronny came out, as I understand it, and made a statement of he doesn't want to go to the G League. Well, there's a guy, he'd be lucky to be on a roster in a G League with his stats if his last name wasn't what it is. He wouldn't get drafted and be considered for the G League. He'd have to stay at USC or go to another school and establish himself as a credible NBA prospect.
The Tom Brady comparison is a good one, Paul, and I think you have a very good point that way, and you may be right. And LeBron, I personally think now, like I'm kind of countering my own point here, but I don't think I think next year he's going to continue to play at a high level. I don't think next year is the year when we start to see a more of a steep decline. Might not even be the year after this, but he's not getting better. He's not better than he was last year, and last year he wasn't better than the year before that, and so on and so on. And the best they could do last year was sneak into or get a play-in round and sneak in and just get a gentleman's sweep against the Nuggets. But now coming back to what you were saying, Ryan, I get your point, right? You have LeBron, who's one of the greatest players of all time, who's still one of the top 10, probably top 10, 15 players in the league. You want to keep him there in that respect. Plus how marketable he is, right?
That's the key.
The Lakers brand is a big part of this too.
From a money-making standpoint, it's going to be interesting to see if this is genius or something less than that. And I think the other thing, here's the asterisk to what I said about LeBron. LeBron played in, 60 games last year? It's not necessarily him being able to stave off Father Time, but just like what we're seeing with Djokovic in tennis right now, it's the injuries. As you get long into your career, the injuries start creeping in and start cutting back into your time and effectiveness on the court.
The thing is, too, I mean, LeBron went right into the league at 18. He has played just an incredible amount of games. You think of all the playoff games he's played, he's probably played, I know the numbers out there, I should look it up, but I mean, just doing the quick math in my head here, he's played well over 2,000 games. Well, the mileage on him is just, it's not, even if we were to compare him to Michael Jordan took a couple years off in between. He played, I think, 3 years in college, right? So, I mean, LeBron is a freak of nature. We have not seen anyone perform at this level at his age with his degree of mileage on him.
When Kareem played at his age, he was a shadow of the player that he once was. A shadow, not even close. So we've got to jump off now for our break. When we come back, we're going to get with our Stinger Report with Coach Baker and Adika Peter McNeely. This is going to be a great show today. We've got so much to share with you. Thanks for joining us on your Saturday morning. Get your cup of coffee refreshed, and when we come back, we'll talk with Coach Baker on the Basketball Show on Sports 1440. We were having a very compelling discussion offline about an equation that would somehow summarize that song. So I think what we've come up with is pop plus funk equals disco. Casey and the Sunshine Band from 76, but a great song. Casey and the Sunshine Band in the 70s, they were huge. You cannot believe the number of line dances that were developed around that song. It was just, you don't think of them as that kind of premier disco band. Everybody, right to the Bee Gees and Kool and the Gang. But Casey and the Sunshine Band were a huge influence on music at that time. Brian, why don't you update us on how some of the teams are doing for Canada right now with Alberta impacting the results?
Yeah, well, the World Under-17 Men's Championship, or World Cup as they're calling it, got underway in Turkey earlier today. Canada's first game, they hammered Germany 77-52. There's a couple of Albertans on the team, including Archbishop O'Leary's own TJ Wall. TJ had 5 points. He was 2 or 3 from the field in the game this morning. So Canada off to a 1-0 start there. A great start. Again, a good result against a very strong competitive team in Germany. So we're rooting on TJ. It's an awesome accomplishment for him to make this team. Just turned 17 not that long ago. So a guy who's played his local high school ball here. So he's a great story, and great to see Canada off to a good start there.
Well, and what I love to hear is that you just said something that's near and dear to my heart, which is he's playing for his high school. And he's not off out in the east or down south of the border or even within the city limits of Edmonton. He's decided, for his reasons, that it's best for him to stay with his friends at his high school and now to have this success. Similar to the Ben Cricky story. 3 young ladies from Alberta, I believe they were all from Calgary, though, recently played for the U17 women's team, and they ended up with a silver medal, correct, Brian?
Yeah, it was the U18 women's teams, actually, Paul.
U18,
yeah, they were
okay.
at the U18 Women's AmeriCup, and that was in, I believe it was in Colombia. Yeah, Colombia, where they played. And, they ended up with silver. They cruised through their round robin and pretty much hammered everybody until they ran into the U.S. in the gold medal game. Very competitive in the gold medal game, too. They had it within about 5 or 6 in the final few minutes, but U.S. just had a little bit too much. But, they came up with a silver, and very cool to see the team 25% Albertan. Succeeding on the world stage. So they, by virtue of their result, they've qualified for the World Cup. So they'll be off to the World Cup next year. I believe a couple of girls from Alberta are age eligible to be part of that team next year. So we'll see how they do, but they may get an opportunity, just like TJ has this year, to play in the World Cup in 2025.
Great update on the success of Alberta and Edmonton-based athletes. Ryan, you've got a tweet.
Actually, rather a message here out from Sherwood Park related to the JJ hire. A larger issue for the Lakers franchise may be the revolving door they've had with their head coach position. He believes this will be the 4th since LeBron signed with the team. I fact-check that's correct. And to build consistent culture and become the place players want to sign, it would be good to commit to a coach. So not having that revolving door and just continuing. They need JJ to stick for a while, or else he's saying the Lakers will lose credibility. That's Marcus out in Sherwood Park.
Hey, Marcus. Well, there's a lot to be said except for one factor, and that is it's the Lakers. And they do whatever they want in whatever way they want to. And I think that it's interesting about culture. When we had Jermaine Buckner on with doing his work this year with the NBA champion Boston Celtics, Jermaine talked about their culture and the ultimate level of professionalism from top to bottom, which I will assume may very well exist within the Laker culture as well. Like when you show up, the way you're treated, the way things are handled. Now, I say that. I'm assuming that. I don't know if that's a reality, number one. Number two, like, why did Darvin Ham lose the team the way he did? Like, what are the factors in the locker room that result in that happening so quickly? I think those are the things behind closed doors that it is so difficult to ascertain and evaluate because you just don't know. But what I do know is, and this is nothing new, the influence of superstar player on who their head coach is. But that's nothing new. Magic Johnson got Paul Westhead fired decades ago. That was well documented. Then they hired Pat Riley, and the rest is history there about all the L.A. Laker championships. But what has happened with more regularity, and this is my point, is I don't like Darvin Ham isn't like he's gone. Monty Williams up in Detroit. Now, that wasn't player related, but signed a 5-year, they owe him $65 million. Trajan Langdon, who to the best of my knowledge has not done anything like in terms of turning a franchise around, is their GM. He was a great player for Duke. But they gave him a blank check and said, do whatever you want. So they got rid of their coach. So I think the influence now of players, executives, and the quick trigger to fire people has accelerated a great deal. Yeah, Ryan.
We got more text generating conversation here, but someone else just cupped in. Triple C in a truck is the name, and he says having LeBron is more of a curse than a blessing.
Well, yes and no. I think he
did win a championship.
Well, yeah, but that's with the biggest NBA championship asterisk by it ever, like in an empty gym during the shortened season. Not that it's not a championship; it's a championship, yes. But okay, here's where I'd go with Triple C. It is exactly as you describe it from my vantage point. But you got to live with that. It's a hell of a curse to have one of the greatest players of all time still playing fabulously well. It's just the influence on your organization and what goes on. Like when you look at how long it took the Lakers to recover post-Kobe, even in L.A., and the fact that now, and Brian, I'm going to jump to you on this. If you're a free agent right now, a really good player, do you want to go and play with LeBron under J.J. Redick with his son on the team along with AD? Or do you say, I think I'm going to look elsewhere?
It's a great question.
Because LeBron's a great team player.
Yeah, and
if you're open, you'll get the ball.
I think he's always, and this may be more the case, a lot of his peers, I think, have retired now, but he's always seemed to have a lot of friends in the league, guys that have wanted to come play with him in the later stages of their career, maybe to get that one last chance at a ring. I think that's been a big motivating factor in players wanting to come play with him before, is it's their chance to get a ring. And I don't think that players would look at the Lakers as a team right now where that's the opportunity. I think there's 8, 9, 10 teams you would go to if you're trying to get your if you're trying to chase a ring, that you're going to go to before you go to the Lakers. And if we're talking, what's the motivating factor for players, right? Some of them want to go somewhere to win. Some of them want to go somewhere to make money. The Lakers don't necessarily have a lot of money they can pay right now either, with all the money they got tied up in their current contracts. So I don't know. I don't think the Lakers are going to be a big free agent destination.
I don't think so either. I think the luster is off, and I think the controversy just is at the forefront. And do you really? It's kind of like I think back to the Lonzo Ball controversy when his dad was such a topic of conversation when Lonzo was playing.
He could beat Michael Jordan in one-on-one.
Yeah, that. And boy, you literally do not hear a peep anymore. No. Like not a peep. And I'd love to know what the agreement is that parties, and I'm not sure which parties signed it, but that you just don't hear about Mr. Ball anymore. I find that interesting. I want to jump over, though, to the draft, to the NBA draft, because in this segment, I really want to touch on a couple of things related to the draft and then get to our Canadian Olympic teams. I think the Lakers got one of the best picks in the draft.
Connect Four.
He is like Reeves, a guy that's sneaky good. And the thing about Connect that I really like is he's really big. Like people say, you walk in, you think this guy's supposed to be 6'6". They say he's 6'9". And he's strong, and he's surprisingly athletic, and he can shoot the heck out of the basketball. And he's a smart, high IQ basketball player, which should fit in really well with LeBron James and his style of play. I think what always surprises me in the NBA draft is how, again, you're drafting 18-year-old, 19-year-old guys that are enormous talents, but that have all these gaps and holes, not just in their game, but the fact that they're 18 and 19 years old. And that in and of itself is such a wild card but a lot of teams stayed away from Connect because he was so old. He's 24, I think, because of his extra year. You're getting a man who has lots of experience, who's physically ready to compete in the NBA, who can shoot the heck out of the ball, moves the ball well, and can defend and rebound. That to me sounds like a lot easier than getting somebody that you hope 2 to 3 years down the road are going to turn into something. Look at the Raptors draft picks and how many picks they've made on potential that never have panned out, not just in their franchise, but anywhere. And it's just, unless that player is so special, like a Kevin Garnett, like a Kobe, like a Wembanyama, like you just don't, I don't understand that mentality of all this talent. Yeah, but give them a year or two. Let them play over in France. Let them play in the G League. Let them play in the NCAA. See how they grow and develop. See what their character's like. And then that formula always made a lot more sense to me.
Some of the greatest players ever did multiple years in college. Tim Duncan, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Yeah, played 4 years.
Yeah, Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
They did their time 3. And they matured. Well, they did more than one is what I'm saying. Like a lot of times it's guys. LeBron's one of the, like Kevin Garnett, LeBron.
Yeah.
They did went right to high school and it worked. But a lot of times you let them develop. They're just kids, right? It's weird saying just kids is me, but Dalton Connect, 23 now.
Yeah, Ryan, you're signing autographs as an Oiler and you're talking about the kids, it's like, yeah, yeah, you're right. But your point's well taken. They're young people like you. So are you ready for the NBA yet, Ryan?
Yeah.
Have you declared?
Give me a 10-day.
Are you
still waiting on the call? Still waiting on the call.
Still waiting on the call. All right. So let's jump over to the Canada basketball national teams. Since what's really interesting, Brian, is it's really hard to wrap your head around that the Canada basketball men's team hasn't been in the Olympics in 24 years, and they have all these NBA players on their roster. But it's taken this long to get to this point. Now you get to this point. You've got a great coach. He's now an NBA head coach. Leading your team forward. You're going to be comprised of all, if not all, almost all NBA players, including the best backcourt in the world in terms of who's going to be going into the Olympics. They will be the best backcourt with Jamal Murray and Gilgeous-Alexander. But 24 years, is there so much pressure on this team to perform? How do you think they're going to respond?
I don't know if these guys have dealt with so much pressure anyway, and
exactly.
These guys are. Jamal Murray is a proven pressure performer.
Yep.
I don't think so, Paul. I don't think they're going to feel that, and do you think there's pressure? Because I think that the gap, the fact that it has been so long. I think people have high expectations, but at the same time too, I don't know if I haven't really thought about that, actually, to be honest. Do you think the expectation around, and maybe I'll throw this to you too, Ryan, what is the expectation of this team, generally speaking? Do people think they're going to get a medal? Actually, let's put it this way. Would people be disappointed if they did not medal?
Yes.
Because I don't know. Sure, they've got a great lineup. A lot of other teams have really good lineups too.
I don't think it's just that. It's just comparing the Canadian team to past Canadian teams and that kind of your own team bias that you think we're going to do better than we are just because we have a better team than we normally do. You don't take in consideration the other teams. We have a better team than we normally do, so we're expecting to medal. It's a weird thing in your head, but I think that's just how it works in people's minds.
The way I look at it is I think the right word isn't pressure. I think it is expectation.
Yeah.
I think there's a general feeling that I also believe has been really marketed resoundingly by Canada basketball, that the expectations for this team are very high. And I think there's a lot being bet on this, and I don't mean in casinos. I mean there's a lot
Probably
being
that too.
bet on
there could be.
Yeah, very well could be. That's true. But my reference point is more there that Canada basketball has really leveraged, spent a lot of money in building this team, in getting the right coaches, in putting them forward. So I think that the expectation is there. So here's my final question on the national teams: 1, 2, and 3. Women's 3x3, the women's national team, men's national team. Rank who is most likely to medal 1, 2, and 3.
I am gonna go 3x3 first, men's second, and women's third. Although my level of disappointment will be different, if that makes sense.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I think I don't know, Paul. I just have this belief in, and maybe it's because I know them personally a little bit, but I have this belief in the 3x3 girls. I just think this is going to happen for them.
Well, I do too. I do too. And the effort and time that have been put in by this group of women, as we talk about often on the show, but can't talk about often enough. Michelle and Catherine Plouffe from Edmonton, Paige Crozen from Humboldt, Saskatchewan, living and working in Lethbridge, Casey Bosch from Lethbridge. These women have dedicated themselves for the last 6 years to reach this goal. And they have gone through so much to get to this point. So I'm going to go a little different in terms of ranking, but I'm going to go in terms of hope. It's the same. Men, 3x3, women in terms of who is most likely to medal. And I put the men and the women 3x3 kind of side by side, is that they have great shots at medaling.
And I know we're probably up against a segment here, but I actually want to run a question by Paul about the 3x3 team and the tournament format later on. I'd be curious to get your take on that. But I think that plays a big part in their potential too.
And that's a great segue into what our next segment's going to be about. We are going to be focusing on Hoop City 3x3 next weekend. I've got a lot of information you may not be aware of about this event, then why you need to get downtown and watch this event from start to finish. Thanks so much for joining us on Saturday here on the Basketball Show on Sports 1440. We'll be right back. Of ranking, but I'm going to go in terms of hope. It's the same. Men, 3x3, women, in terms of who is most likely to medal. And I put the men and the women 3x3 kind of side by side, is that they have great shots at medaling.
And I know we're probably up against a segment here, but I actually want to run a question by Paul about the 3x3 team and the tournament format later on. I'd be curious to get your take on that. But I think that plays a big part in their potential too.
And that's a great segue into what our next segment's going to be about. We are going to be focusing on Hoop City 3x3 next weekend. I've got a lot of information you may not be aware of about this event, then why you need to get downtown and watch this event from start to finish. Thanks so much for joining us on Saturday here on the Basketball Show on Sports 1440. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. Super Freak Saturday here on the Basketball Show, Sports 1440. We're going to talk now about Hoop City 3x3, and that has been our title sponsor since the beginning of us relaunching the show here on Sports 1440 all these months ago. Hoop City 3x3 is here. It starts next Friday down at the Fan Park. 4 p.m. we get started with the Women's Series. And the Women's Series is comprised of 8 teams from around the world, led by the number 1 seed, Team Canada, led by, as I've said many times already in this show, the Ploufs from Edmonton and Paige and Casey from Lethbridge. They're going to be playing their pool play on Friday. And I want to set the table, though, for the whole event based on Friday. Also on Friday, we're going to have Turn 1440 broadcasting live from downtown. And they've got a couple of very cool promotion possibilities that they're going to be rolling out on their show this week. We have food trucks set up. We have got Athletics Alberta's coming down. You can high jump. You can long jump. This is set up with their Mini Legends program for the kids. United Cycle is going to be bringing down their inflatables. We're going to have so many activities going on around the grounds, and that all starts Friday night. Then on Saturday, we get going early. 9 a.m. Hoop City kicks off, as does the World Tour men's qualifying draw. So 9 a.m., we're going to be rocking and rolling down in the Fan Park as well. And then throughout the course of the day, all of the Hoop City age groups will be playing. Our Quest division will be playing, and I'm going to come back to that in just a moment. But we have the men's qualifying draw, then the men's pool play, then we go into the women's series quarters, semis, and finals. And the finals will be the last event of the evening. Around 8:40 p.m., I believe, is when the final game will take place. When we have our breaks, we're going to have fan activations. We're going to be throwing stuff into the stands, but we're also going to be having the first round of the men's shootout. We're also going to be bringing in all kinds of cultural groups and entertainers from around the city that are going to wow you with their talents. So we've got a festival happening next weekend centered and built around 3x3, but with the whole intent of having something for everybody, that this is going to be fun for the eyes, fun for the ears, and you're going to be able to sit under the magic sky in the arena that we're going to build for our FIBA events. You're going to be watching aspiring FIBA 3x3 teams battling for spots for the women to go play in a women's series event in Saskatoon in mid-August, and for the men's winner to journey over to Shanghai in mid-September to play in a World Tour event. So we're doing things that nobody else is doing in Canada. This is the largest 3x3 event in Canada. We are extremely excited about the teams that are going to be here, both many of which are going to be heading to the Olympics. You're going to see a lot of Olympians playing, but then aspiring Olympians from 9 to 90 are going to be out on the grounds as well. One of the people, and on Sunday as well, I just again want to keep setting the table. On Sunday, you'll have the men's shootout final. You'll have our celebrity shootout where Catherine and Michelle Plouffe and Steve Sir will shoot out against each other. And the $500 prize sponsored by Shoot 360 will be donated to a very deserving local charity. So all kinds of fun, exciting things that will be going on. And the men's final will be played mid-afternoon on Sunday. One of the men's players that will be here is Jimmer Fredette. He will be part of Team Miami. And Team Miami, everyone, is the U.S. Olympic team. They're going to be playing off. We also have 3 other Olympic teams that are going to be here as well. We have Team Mongolia here with Steve Sir, our local player, top-ranked Canadian 3x3 player. He'll be here as well. So we have what I love about this event that we put together in partnership with our great funding partners, Province of Alberta, City of Edmonton, Explore Edmonton, that have just put so much into in supporting what we're doing with 3x3, in helping establish Edmonton and maintaining Edmonton as the pinnacle of 3x3 in Canada. And I would go so far as to say outside of the great Hoop Fest in Spokane, Washington, which is the model we're trying to aspire to, that this is the best 3x3 event in North America. So the tickets are very reasonable. You've got $10 for an individual, $5 for kids, and you've got and students, and you've got $25 for a family of 5 for the day. And you can't get value like that anywhere and get in for an event like this. Food trucks everywhere, entertainment everywhere, basketball everywhere. It's just a great, great event to go to. Never mind the basketball, but when you add the basketball in, it's incredible. Now, Jimmer Fredette, Brian, you remember Jimmer from his days at BYU.
Absolutely.
He was a legend.
Oh, he was a legend.
He is a legend.
Yeah. I mean, and what I didn't realize this, Paul, is it's Team Miami, that he plays for, right?
Correct.
Team Miami.
Yes.
I didn't realize that is actually also the U.S. Olympic team, too. So, I mean, how cool is that? That's, 3 weeks before the Olympics?
3 weeks before the Olympics. The U.S. men's Olympic team is going to be here.
Well, Paul, I mean, I think anyone who remembers watching Jimmer Fredette, I mean, the guy could just shoot the lights out. What is it do you think has translated so well to 3x3 for him?
Well, the fact that he shoots the ball so well, but he's such a good basketball player. Like, I've seen him many, many times, and he's a really smart player. I think Jimmer's probably 6'3", 6'4", but he's crafty off the bounce. So he can get to the rim and create his own shot. He's got a great mid-range game as well, and he's a good passer. And the thing about the U.S. team is they make no bones about who their guy is, and that is Jimmer. And the other players feed off him. They have Kareem Maddox, who is longtime Princeton player, who's their post guy, 6'8", post player. Can shoot the three, very good around the rim, but a very cerebral player. They have Dylan... I'm trying to think of Dylan's last name right now. He played, I think he played at University of Nebraska, Omaha, and a 6'1", 6'2" guard. He is to the U.S. team what Casey Bosch.
Dylan McGill, Dylan Brogum. I'm just looking up Dylan's for the basketball.
Okay, that
Brougham.
Maybe.
Does that ring a bell? Okay.
I'm not. My bells aren't ringing right now.
Okay.
But he's a very good defender, very good passer, and a great gap filler for the U.S. team. And then they have Rick Barry's youngest son, Canyon Barry, playing for them as well. And Canyon has had a couple of cups of coffee in the NBA, but has mostly played in the G League along with 3x3. And again, he's a slasher. He can shoot the three. He's not a great three-point shooter, but he can shoot the three. But he's a very good slasher and role player. But everything builds around Jimmer Fredette. Jimmer Fredette's worth the price of admission. If you just came to watch Jimmer Fredette play, you will leave there having your money's worth. but he may not be the best shooter there because the guy who he studied at first to learn how to play 3x3 from his type of position, the USA Basketball had him watching films of Steve Kerr.
Okay. I was gonna guess. Well, see, that's the other thing, Paul. This celebrity shootout you have here now. This intrigues me.
Yes.
Steve versus Catherine and Michelle. Now, are Catherine and Michelle are they combining their points? Or is this
Oh no, I don't think they'll have to. I mean, they're both very good 3-point shooters.
Yeah, no, they are. They are.
One of the things FIBA doesn't do is they don't allow, and I say that, and it is critical. They don't allow a women's series shootout. We wanted to have a women's series shootout too, but they don't allow it because, well, we won't. It for their own reasons. None of which make any sense. But what we thought we really wanted to build on the shootout between Steph Curry and Ionescu at the NBA All-Star Weekend. That was marvelous.
That's right. I was going to go. I'll tell you, my money's. I'm taking if it's Steve or the field, I'm going field.
Well, I'm going to pass that on to Steve Bryant. So if he,
that's motivation.
It's motivation. That's right.
There you go. Prove me wrong, Steve.
That's right.
Yeah.
But it's going to be great. And all three are such dedicated, loyal, and great ambassadors for the city of Edmonton, spokespeople for the game of basketball, for 3x3. I mean, when you think of the irony of it, Steve got the Ploufs interested and involved in 3x3. The Ploufs have embraced it and run with it. I mean, when you look at what 3x3 is evolving into out of Canada, it all starts with the mustard seed of Edmonton. We have been the leader and still are the leader in the country. And I personally want to guard that title ferociously because of all that's been given here, the vision, the support that we have from the funding bodies that I mentioned, from the corporate community. And here's the thing: this we want to spread out into school systems, into league play for adults. 3x3 is such a fun but also healthy alternative to not just other sports, but to just 5-on-5 basketball. Like, I still maintain anybody under 12 and anybody over 35 should be playing 3x3 because it's better for you physically. You get a better workout faster, and you focus on offense, dribble, pass, and shoot. Everybody gets lots of touches, lots of shots, and I think that's really important developmentally because everybody knows you see a U11 team out there and one young person is more athletically advanced than everybody else, and they end up dominating the ball, and the child who isn't advanced physically yet ends up plodding along and hardly ever touching the ball. In 3x3, you're going to have to touch the ball. You're going to have to be engaged, and you spend your time with the ball in your hands, not running up and down the court. That's why I also recommend to players over 35 or 40. I say, just video yourself. That'll make you want to play 3x3. But if when you lose that youthful ability to run the court healthily, and you really reduce the chance of injuries. And plus, again, you're doing what you love doing in basketball. Dribbling, passing, and especially shooting more in 3x3. So here are the details again. Hoop City 3x3. You can get your tickets at DueNorthEvents.ca. Again, that's DueNorthEvents.ca. Starts next Friday, 4 p.m. Gates open at 3. Women's Series gets going Friday night. The Hoop City Community Tournament starts Saturday morning, 9 a.m. The FIBA 3x3 Quest starts also on Saturday morning. Men's World Tour begins, blends in with the Women's Series all day Saturday, and then Sunday, more Hoop City action, and the World Tour men's quarters, semis, and finals will be played under the dome. So go to DueNorthEvents.ca and join us next weekend at Hoop City 3x3. You will be glad you did. So we're going to take a break right now. We'll come back. We got lots more to talk about here on the Basketball Show. Thanks so much for being with us this morning. Again, go get a new cup of coffee. Make it your fourth one of the day. Sit back, relax. We're going to have a lot to talk about that's all basketball here on Sports 1440. Welcome back to the Basketball Show on this beautiful Saturday morning in Edmonton. Ryan, let's start out this segment by looking at our poll numbers.
So again, touching on Bronny James, that's the topic of discussion for the poll. The question was, what is Bronny James' ceiling? If he's going to be a star, a starter, a bench player, or a career G Leaguer. 75 votes so far, and very split amongst the last two. Not a single person thinks he's going to be a star. 8% of people thinks he's going to be a starter. 44% of people say bench player, and 48 say G Leaguer. So people are split between bench player and G Leaguer, which makes sense. Like, he's a late second round pick. So,
well, and a late second round pick that would never have been picked in a million years had he not been LeBron's son. Now, you say that he had health issues that absolutely were devastating in terms of him making a comfortable progression into a true NCAA year, which to me is why I really look at this and go, did you really have to force it? But I think going back to your comment using the term Father Time, I think that it would appear from the outside looking in that LeBron had a huge influence in this, is that if Bronny and LeBron were going to be on the same team, LeBron's still playing very well. Bronny, I mean, one of the things I've always questioned is the lineups of number 10 through 15 in the NBA teams, like why they keep certain players. Like, there's a lot of players in that mix. You go, why that player and not all these other players that are doing really well overseas? Instead, you've got these very specific players who never really get any kind of traction and aren't even really, when they go to the G League, that effective in the G League. So it's an inexact science. I guess I would go with that. Let's stay on the NBA for a second. Zach Edey, there's been lots of conversation about, will he get drafted? Will he be a late second round pick? But in the end, he was the 9th pick by the Memphis Grizzlies. And Zach Edey, 7'4", Canadian, 2-time NCAA Player of the Year for Purdue. Just absolutely marvelous university career. But we all know NCAA ain't the NBA in terms of just style of play and rules of play, and, of course, then add in athletes that are playing in the league. So Memphis picks him. Now, they had Steven Adams. So they're used to a big, strong post player who doesn't shoot the three. Is this why they chose him? Is this that within their culture? And again, we go back to comments made earlier. Teams tend to go to they gravitate towards certain styles of play and certain players. And even if that's a mistake, they'll still go back to that. Is that what's happening here, Brian? Do you think
he is Steven Adams, Paul, or a close enough facsimile of him? I mean, I don't necessarily I don't know. I mean, Steven Adams, if he could be Steven Adams, I think that's a pretty good career. I think that would exceed my expectations for him, to be honest. What are your thoughts? Do you think that's kind of the template they're looking at for him here?
Well, I don't know if it's the template so much as his style of play. I think it's a template of a big traditional center that takes up a lot of space and can score around the basket and set massive picks and rebounds well. That's what I think they're looking for from him. And here's something that I always think about as the NBA continues to evolve, or in some ways devolve, but in the way that the emphasis is so much on shooting the three, and we talked about this a lot on the show, but shooting the three or shooting layups. Mid-range game is creeping back into relevance again because of the great play of Gilgeous-Alexander, Kawhi Leonard, other guys that are really good mid-range players. Boston, Jaylen Brown and Tatum have real nice mid-range games, and Luka Doncic, of course, owns the mid-range. So that's becoming more relevant. Is there also the potential that, along with a Nikola Jokic, who just defies all definition and expectations, that some teams will go back to at least a portion of their strategy be with a very big traditional center in the low block that they feed and they feed off of? Like if you think of Zach Edey catching it in the low block and going to work on his defender, who might be a long, athletic 6'10", 210-pound player, and Zach Edey has 80 to 100 pounds on him, Is that going to be part of their strategy that some teams are going to try to exploit now?
Yes and no, but then there's the flip side of the coin where the 6'10", 210-pound guy can just blow by on the other side. But it is what it is. I wanted to go and look at the last men's college players of the years and just see how they fare. It's kind of a rocky history, especially as of late.
It's not
Edie,
a gauge
2 in a
for
row.
NBA success.
Exactly. Oscar Tshiebwe for Kentucky has not really done anything. Luka Garza, Obi Toppin's been a good player for the Pacers, but nothing crazy. Zion's been very good, but he won in 2019. Jalen Brunson 2018, Frank Mason 2017, Kings legend right there. Another Kings legend, Buddy Hield in 2016. Frank Kaminsky 2015, Doug McDermott 2014, Trey Burke. Anthony Davis is another exception where he played very well. And then Jimmer Fredette, another Kings legend, 2011.
See, Jimmer Fredette, NCAA player of the
year. It's been a rocky history for...
It's up and down.
It's very much like almost like the Heisman Trophy, right? It does
very
not,
much so.
Yeah, it does not guarantee.
No, it doesn't translate.
But I think, here's what, and I thought of you, Paul, as soon as he was drafted, because I wanted to hear what your thoughts on this are. And this kind of goes back to a conversation we were just having during the playoffs about the Timberwolves and how Rudy Gobert was exploited defensively by the Mavericks. And I look at the foot speed or lack thereof of Zach Edey, and I think he's just going to get eaten alive on the switch.
He will.
And so
every team will try to pull him out and switch.
So exactly. So I mean, that's what I'm trying to square away here. Is if this is what do the Grizzlies see? Because I know Zach Edey's made incredible progress throughout his career. I know he's improved each year. I know he's got an incredible work ethic. You can't really teach speed.
No,
I don't think that's a part of his game that you can really do anything. That's his body. That's who he is physically.
Now here's a couple of things, and because you're exactly right. Here's the big if, and here's my challenge that absolutely blows my mind. In the NBA Finals, Jaylen Brown did something completely outrageous. He actually went over screens to stay in front of Luka Doncic. And I'm saying that tongue-in-cheek. It drives me nuts that the NBA sends their center out 45 feet from the basket, sets a pick on the defender, and they switch. And then they stand there 45 feet from the basket while the offensive player usually sizes the big guy up and then attacks the basket. The NBA defensive rules on the switch and how you have to guard your man and the fact that you can't play in the key for longer than 3 seconds on defense just drive me out of my mind. So if I'm the Grizzlies, I'm saying, all right, when Zach Edey comes out that far from the basket, there's something you call hedging. Hedge on the player so he can't turn the corner and attack the basket. And then have your defender go under the screen and come back and switch back. Like, why not do that? Like, I look at this as just pure surrendering to this notion. And some of it is the schematics of the NBA that drive me nuts. So to your point, if Zach Edey gets out and starts guarding guys 40 feet from the basket, he's going to get absolutely smoked.
But he's been facing that his whole career. Obviously, it's a different level in the NBA, but it's not like a new thing where he's going to be attacked on the pick and roll. So I do agree that it's going to be a bit rocky, especially at the beginning. And Summer League actually might be a taste of that as well. But it's not a new thing that he's facing where, he's the 7'4", 300-pound guy. Let's get him on the perimeter. I think his last 2-3 years in college, that's what he's been facing. So he's not fast, and you can't teach speed really, as you mentioned, but I think there's ways to kind of figure that out. Maybe drop coverage on the screen a little bit, have the guard hedge it a bit more than normal. It'll be an issue, but I think it's not a new thing for him facing, is kind of what I'm saying.
It is and it isn't, though, Ryan, and I respectfully disagree with you because in the NBA or in the NCAA, you can play zone and you can stay in the middle, and that's what Zach did a lot of, and that's where he made his living, is plugging up the middle. And in the NBA, they just won't allow him to do that. So it is an issue, and that is the issue probably why a player of that with those kind of accolades isn't drafted. So it's going to be interesting to see. Why Memphis picked him so early is a mystery. So it'll be interesting to see what their plans are.
Could Jaren Jackson offset it a little bit?
For sure. He's one of the, if not the best, elite
DPOY
defenders in the league.
I mean, I think, and I hope, big Zach Edey fan. I think what he did was incredible. Proud of him as a Canadian, all that. I want him to succeed. But what really puzzles me about this pick is that, okay, so we're talking about how he could potentially be, I won't say a liability necessarily defensively, but he could be a challenge. He could.
Of course,
It could be an issue for the Grizzlies. So if you're drafting a player that could be an issue for you on that end of the floor, you think, is it a sacrifice for what he can give you at the other end of the floor? Now, with he doesn't step outside and shoot threes. We know that, and that's not really what the NBA game is right now. What do you think he's going to give at the? We've talked about what his situation will be for him defensively. Offensively, what kind of a role can he play here, and can he be? How effective can he be, and is it enough to offset whatever deficiencies there may be on the defensive end of the floor?
Maybe, and the reason I say maybe is it depends on the commitment of the Grizzlies to using Zach Edey's assets, which is he's 7'4", 300
Screener
pounds.
for Ja Morant.
Big screener for Ja Morant, slip to the basket. He does have a nice 15-foot jump shot.
Working on his 3 too. In the NBA workouts, they saw him. He hit like 10 threes in a row.
Okay,
but
well,
open threes are one thing, I guess, right? In warm up.
AI must be working then, and so. I think it depends on their commitment on how they want to use him. Think of that: him setting screens for Ja Morant, like the space that will create. Him rolling downhill to the basket.
And he has gravity rolling downhill too, right? And Ja going down there too. That's pretty crazy.
Well,
Jaron
the fact
in the corner.
that they drafted him at number 9 must make me think that they know what they're getting, and they're going to have to go all in. They must be committed to doing these things.
Well, I think they are. And I think also when you look at the NBA and basketball in general, sometimes players get singled out on the defensive side of the ball because if they're slow and they can't keep somebody in front of them and then they get criticized or benched or whatever. The quickest guys in the league are getting torched all the time by the best offensive player. Great offense always beats great defense. So if you're committed, and that you go back to that, if they're committed to using Zach Edey in an effective way in a role with Memphis, he could have a really positive effect like Steven Adams had.
I think his offensive upside is probably better.
Oh, definitely.
Adams, right?
I mean, Adams was not a strong offensive player at all.
No.
Offensive rebounder.
Great rebounder, great offensive rebounder. Like, those are really valuable things. Valanciunas has carved out a nice career. He gets kind of discarded after a while, but I equate that more to the failure of the team than the failure of the player. There's always room for a good big guy that can score. It's just you've got to have more depth at that position because you can't play that style for 48 minutes in the NBA.
You can't stay alive on defense for 48 minutes if you're Edey either, right? You got to have a change of pace and have Jaren play the 5 for a bit.
Like, to me, is he going to be a 10 to 20 minute a game player?
Well, I would hope so if he used the number 9 pick on him.
Well, Anthony Bennett was the number 1 pick, and he didn't play.
That's not exactly. I get what you're saying, though,
10
Paul.
to 18 seconds.
But if you are using
in the summer
if you're drafting a guy at number 9, you're not drafting him thinking, it'd be good if he's playing 10 minutes for us.
And the great thing goes back to the point Ryan made. He played 5 years at Purdue, right? Did he play the 5th year? 4. Okay,
4, yeah.
So 4 years. So he played a full 4 years. So he's a man, an adult coming
300
into
pounds.
and he's a big man. So, I mean, he's going to come in. He's a known quantity. They had to look at and say, you know what? I think we can use this guy. And the other thing to go to is when you go in the first and second round and you look at how many of these players are actually going to stick in the NBA, impact in the NBA.
Like I think
Zach Edey has as much of a chance of having a good, successful, long-term career as a lot of these other players that are far more athletic. I don't want to leave this segment, though, without us jumping to the Andrew Wiggins snub by Golden State to not be allowed to play on the Canada basketball national team, Olympic team. This is just so weird to me because you've got a player. I mean, Wiggins did not have a great year, one of his weakest seasons after a 2 year when they won the championship being an all-star. But what I don't understand is that you have the head coach of the Golden State Warriors, their superstar Hall of Famer in Steph Curry playing for the American Olympic team, but they go hard down on Andrew Wiggins and say you can't play in the Olympics. What do you think's behind this?
It's the trade stuff, right? They want to move his contract. If he's injured, he won't be able to move, but it is tough.
I get that. And so this is just what you're saying. This is just business. This is just Golden State protecting itself, doing everything they can to get this, what they consider to be now a negative contract, out of their system. Yeah.
And they interviewed Jordi Fernandez about it, and he said he emphasized how disappointed Wiggins was when the Warriors made the move to pull him from the national team. Then Rowan Barrett said that Wiggins had been training hard and was looking forward to following in his mom's footsteps as an Olympian.
Yeah, that's really...
So I'm going to... Sorry, Paul, did you want to... I look at this... I mean, we just saw the NHL just yesterday announce all the teams that will be participating. What's it called, Ryan? The World...
Six Nations?
The Six Nations Cup. Yeah. This is... Now, the NHL... I can't imagine if any NHL team would not let their player represent their country. And this is an NBA thing. The NBA should be... If the NBA is about growing the game, is about, global everything, all this stuff. They love to promote the fact of how they're a global game and how our last number of MVPs have come from this many different countries and et cetera, et cetera. And you're letting one of your teams not let one of it's his country's potential best players represent his country
for the Olympics too. That's not even just the World Cup.
Imagine if the Winnipeg Jets said we're not going to let Connor Hellebuck play for Team USA, right? Like I just this blows my mind.
The NHL blocked players for the Olympics for a little while there.
They've never not let any. Well, the entire league, but not individual players. There's never been you would not get away with this in the NHL. I don't understand how they can do this. And it blows my mind, and especially that this very same franchise is allowing another player to go play for his country, which just happens to be USA.
I totally agree. I totally agree. It's a bad look. It's bad form on the part of Golden State. You can look at it from a purely black and white business standpoint and say, all right, it flies in the face of everything you just described about how the NBA tries to posture itself as this global game. It flies in the face of everything of yes, but not him. And he would start for Team USA. Does that look suspicious? Like they're trying to, they've got their head coach and they've got their best player. They're trying to improve the odds because they have some control over this of Canada not being quite strong enough to beat the American team. Is that part of the thinking here? Whatever the thinking is, I agree with you 100%. It's completely out of step, out of line, and it just a terrible decision and an insult to this player to use that as the basis to restrict this one player. Luka Doncic, Dallas could say, you got this guy who's already banged up going over and playing for his national team. Now, why wouldn't Dallas say to him, you can't play. You got to get healthy over the summer. You got to get in better shape. You can't go play for your Olympic team. What if you get hurt?
Yeah, no, and I think this is false. You know what? We can be mad at the Warriors, and certainly I think we are, rightfully so, but the Warriors have made their decision in the best interest of the franchise. So I can at least understand that.
Yes.
What it's I think it sucks, and I think it's just a bad thing to do to your player, to Andrew Wiggins, but they're acting in the best interest of the franchise. The NBA should have a rule that says, listen, your teams cannot do this.
Yeah, can't restrict a guy.
You can't. Well, that's the big idea about this. This is about this. The idea is that this is going to be the greatest international basketball tournament ever, because for the first time really ever, all the best countries are in there. We've never had this level of quality across the board, and all the players get to be there.
Except this guy.
Except this
Wiggins.
guy.
Except this guy.
Except Wiggins, right?
It's an abomination, and I agree with you. Adam Silver should be on the phone right now saying, guys, change it right now. Make that go away, because this is not what we stand for at all. And it really smacks of penalizing Canada in a way that's very unacceptable. So, it'll be interesting to see. Now, the Canadians still have a lot of talent, yes, but Wiggins, if he's fired up, he's starting, and he's an impact player. They're going to miss him.
I think it was, when was the qualifiers they had in Victoria? A couple years ago, I think. Remember that? How he was super impressive in that. I think the international game suits him.
I do too. It's going to be really interesting. It's going to be really interesting to see if there's any more fallout, any more pressure, it sounds like it's a done deal and they're not going back. What you said, though, is exactly right. And I cannot believe that you would apply that standard to Wiggins, other than the fact that they are so desperate to get rid of his contract that they're willing to put this kind of negative controversy out there in order to make sure they get rid of Wiggins.
I guess, I mean, you know what? The Warriors are acting in their best interest. So at the end of the day, I'm not mad at the Warriors. I'm mad at the NBA for letting them do it.
I'm really mad at the Warriors and disappointed in them. Yes, they were, but no, they're not, because you can't apply that standard to Andrew Wiggins and not apply it to Steph Curry.
They're also indirectly helping the American team
100%.
by stopping Wiggins and letting Curry just walk to the American team. Wiggins would be huge defensively, especially for 100%. Canada, guarding the best player on the other team.
100%. Absolutely.
Those Curry's moves are very well. Witness it firsthand every day.
What I'm interested about with the American team is how much time do we have in this segment, Ryan?
1 minute, 1 or 2 minutes.
2 minutes? Okay. The American team, it's a who's who, Mount Rushmore of basketball players playing in the NBA, except for that number 3 that's in front of so many of the players' ages. That I find interesting. Is that, are they the favorites? Absolutely. Should they be the favorites? Absolutely. Can they be beaten? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Can Canada beat them on a given night? Absolutely. Chances go up if they have their best team, which would include Andrew Wiggins. But can they beat them on a given night? Absolutely. This is not like the American women's team, which for all intents and purposes is pretty much unbeatable in the women's side of the Olympics. The Americans, I mean, when you look at Serbia and some Germany, and you look at some of the other teams, whoever comes out,
we're talking on the men's side here.
On the men's side, back to the men's side. Whoever comes out on the podium, they're going to earn it, and that includes the American. This is not 1992 and the Dream Team.
No, this is the greatest international basketball tournament ever. And it really is, and that's why
makes
why
it so
this
much worse for Wiggins. Yeah,
exactly. That's why this is just so disappointing.
It is. It is. We're going to take a break and come back with our final segment. Thank you again for being with us today. This is a lot of fun. I'm here with Ryan and Brian on the Basketball Show on Sports 1440. Community Superstar Spotlight. Every week, the Basketball Show celebrates the contributions of some of the dedicated, selfless, and hardworking organizations and individuals who bring basketball programs and opportunities to our community. We want to say thank you to some of these superstars. For example, the EBOA, the Edmonton Basketball Officials Association, is the premier basketball officiating group in Canada. As one of the largest basketball officiating groups in the country, EBOA boasts a deep roster of international and post-secondary officials, and that is a gospel truth, with now almost 2 NBA officials coming out of EBOA. The EBOA enjoys some of the best education and development, with officials gaining opportunities to further the sport at all levels. Contact them at theeboa.com. Wheelchair Sports Alberta. Wheelchair is going to be featured at the upcoming Hoop City 3x3. They have their own category. They're going to have a round-robin playoff and a championship game, and they're going to have a segment where everyone can try wheelchair basketball. That another reason to come to Hoop City 3x3. Wheelchair Sports Alberta runs provincial wheelchair basketball team that goes to the Canada Winter Games every 4-year cycle. Wheelchair basketball is totally inclusive and welcomes all those with and without disabilities. Africa Center, also since 2006, the Africa Center, the largest Pan-African nonprofit in Western Canada, has served as a community hub offering culturally aware programs and services to diverse families, aiming to enhance participation in economic, social, cultural, and educational aspects of society while fostering holistic development and wellness. Our good friend Reed Clark at the Fresh Nets Foundation is a grassroots organization putting nets up all over the city since 2021. They have put up over 1,000 basketball nets all over Edmonton. We hope to be doing a collaborative program with Fresh Nets on Hoop City as part of a legacy feature after the 3x3 event in making it better with new rims and new nets all over Edmonton. And finally, the Edmonton Basketball Association is Edmonton's original adult recreation basketball league. Join us for competitive and recreational sport basketball leagues for men and women at the Saville Community Sports Center. All right, guys. Ryan, you had a great tweet.
Yeah, someone texted in saying, what's the penalty if Wiggins says too bad and just plays? The only problem with that is just the contractual agreement. They wouldn't let him enlist on the roster for FIBA. It's out of Wiggins' control. The NBA has that team-by-team basis of who can pick, and Wiggins signed the contract with the Warriors, and in the fine print, it just says, we decide what you do, which is you sign in your life away. I mean, he gets paid well for it, but it is tough in this scenario.
Well, it is. And Ryan, you had an interesting perspective on the NHL versus the NBA.
The NHL, it's more of like a league-wide mandate if you're allowed or not. So in the NHL, you're not going to see, rarely you'll see an individual team saying this person cannot play. At the NHL in general, we'll say, like for a while, the Olympics were like no-go, no one's allowed to play in it from the NHL. And now it's just open season. For the Four Nations Cup, as we talked about earlier, for the Olympics moving forward, it's a lot of just, if you want to play, go ahead, which is kind of a cool idea. And the rare category the NHL has over the NBA for like the in the business sector and the management sector.
Well, I think and Brian, I'm interested in your perspective. If I had to pick which league outshone the other league in this postseason, I'd give a big thumbs up to the NHL. I thought the NHL postseason was much more compelling than the NBA was, particularly in the finals. There was no comparison in the finals. As much as I love basketball, the NHL Oilers versus the Panthers was riveting, where the Mavericks versus the Celtics was, good on the Celtics for being so dominant, but not nearly as watchable as it was in the NHL.
Yeah, it's probably hard to have an objective perspective in Edmonton, given what we got to the crazy ride we got to experience here. But no, I would agree. I mean, I lost interest. I think it was over for me at the end of the Denver-Minnesota series, to be honest, Paul. Like the conference finals, we had 4-1 and 4-0, and the NBA finals 4-1. So there was not a competitive series basically from the end of the conference semifinals onward. We talked about it last week. This was one of the playoffs I was least interested in. It's so funny, too, because we were talking all season about how excited we were, especially for the Western Conference playoffs, how this was going to be,
the first two rounds were great.
Yeah.
They were good theater.
But like we said, too, it was just matchups, right? It was just bad matchups. Like, if we get Denver, Boston next year, it's going to be incredible.
Well, it really would be. And I think, too, to your point, though, is – I would make this point. The Celtics were just so good this year. Like, that was one of the best constructed lineups that we've seen in a long, long time, top to bottom, coming off the bench. Like, that starting five was spectacular when Porzingis was healthy in particular. Geez, there was, that backcourt was incredible. And then you've got wings like Brown and Tatum. When you start bringing Jaylen Brown into the elite level he's at now, and then Porzingis, when he was healthy, was very effective in that lineup. Mazzulla did a great job with the team. It was just, kudos to the Boston Celtics. They are now the model.
They are
in the NBA.
And I'll admit that I didn't. There was questions about that team all along. We weren't sure if they were for real.
100%.
And I think I said that we might not know they're for real until they actually are for real. And now that they are for real,
they are for real.
We know that they are finally getting the flowers they deserve.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Brian and Ryan. Great show today. Thank you all for being with us today. I'm going to give a shout out and tribute to my son Ben. Make sure that you tell everyone that you love that you love them, appreciate them, be kind to others. You don't know what they're going through in their lives. You can't be kind enough to your fellow man. Thanks for joining us this week. Next week, Hoop City, 3x3, Friday through Sunday, down at the Fan Park. Get your tickets. Come on down and enjoy yourselves. Thanks again for spending your Saturday morning with us. Looking forward to talking with you again next week. Have a great week on and off the court. This has been The Basketball Show on Sports 1440.